Hello everyone, my name is Sartaj Anand and I'm the curator of TEDx Bangalore. The coronavirus has altered life as we know it across the planet. But as you can imagine, there are many Indias living in India. And the true impact of COVID-19 has been felt very differently by different stakeholders based on age, income, caste, gender, and a whole host of other qualifiers. In today's episode, we're joined by Puja Marwaha, CEO of CRY, Child Rights in You, to better understand what the pandemic actually means for our children. We'll examine the state of children in India and unpack the effects of COVID-19 and the impact of our adult choices on their health, nutrition, education, and more. Thanks so much, Puja, for choosing to join us today. So Puja, tell us a little bit more about what is the state of children today. Give us that 10,000 feet overview.
So right now, as you know, we're almost into our 6th month of the pandemic, which has had stages of extreme lockdown, and sort of now limping back to normal. If I look at for children, this has been a very strange time. So one whole area that has they've got deprived of is just sheer access to safe spaces like a school, like a care center, like, even the access could also be to groups of their peers, where civil society, for example, people like us, do a lot of work creating safe spaces. So there's a whole issue with access to, of course, education, but to me, the more worrying part about protection, about access to immunization. We did a survey recently and we found that it was very worrying. In the first 2-3 months, there were almost 80 to 85% children had not got immunization. So, restarting all those services is very, very critical. And these are basic building blocks for children. So I think with children and the pandemic, you don't see an immediate impact, but we are really going to see a long-term impact. The second big, as you said, when you look at it from far, the really worrying thing is children need to play as much as there is their need for education or health or access to anything. I mean, so their space of playing, their space of interacting, their space of just being children, and when right now, when we are, even if anyone is allowing them to play or allowing them to do something, I mean, they literally have, socially distanced circles where they can only stand. So I think the impact on children has been huge, both visible as well as invisible.
COVID-19 is a traumatic experience for adults and children alike. Is there any sort of clinical research or study which talks about what this sort of collective experience or tragedy might mean for our children?
So, we've had reports obviously by UNICEF, by the WHO, on what the impact of this is. We have run in India, we've seen smaller psychosocial studies being done. And the thing that we were reported, so CRY ran very quickly, was able to run an online study. And there were 2 or 3 things that emerged. One was that the kind of fear that children are gripped by. Yeah, of course, adults are gripped by as well. But clearly, if you are seeing your parents who are normally, your safe space, who are sort of in control of themselves, being out of control, yeah, it is a very frightening thing for young children. Yeah. It's exponential, right? So I think that experience of being unsafe, of not knowing, especially I think the first 3-4 months of the pandemic, we really didn't know how COVID would behave. Yeah. So there was so much of paranoia about touching, about sanitizing, about, we've heard of parents running after children with, sanitizer and sanitizing vegetables and,
going overboard.
Going overboard. And for children, young children especially, this is a very scary, frightening experience. So that is one part that we heard a lot of reporting. I am sure you're familiar with the fact that domestic violence has really gone up. Childline has had, of the 16 million calls that they've had, and that's really one of the living sources of data that we have in India, is Childline calls. Of that, so they were telling us of 4 million calls, 1.6 million was silent calls. And silent call means the child is being abused and is not able to say, because she or he is in this domestic space where the abuse or violence is occurring, and she's not able to say. So that's a very, very disturbing trend that we have.
Huge number.
It is huge. And this is just
and
the children who are aware of the
yeah.
helpline number and are able to call.
And this is within a 3-month period?
Within a 3-month
wow.
period. Yeah. So I know that most of us have been trying to work with Childline to see what we can do during this period. We've been working with district administrations to see if the responses can be better. And one of the things that we realized during this period was that it is necessary in this country, I think, to declare such helplines, such work as essential services. They need to operate, whether they are shelters for women suffering domestic violence or for children suffering domestic violence. We really need to reclassify so that, God forbid, we have a situation like this again. At least children have access. Yeah, so that is, so there are levels of things that we are here. So one very critical thing that I want to speak about is nutrition. Yeah, the data tells us that actually, thanks to the government's midday meal schemes that we have both in schools as well as in Anganwadis, as well as for lactating and pregnant mothers, a lot of people, millions of people get access to at least one nutritious full meal. And that actually not being available in this time has been and continues to be an issue because schools have not opened yet. There have been very successful take-home ration programs in most states. I was looking at enrollment data, and actually states in the east like Orissa, Jharkhand, Bihar have actually done huge enrollment drives so that at least the children and families are registered for take-home rations. Sure. But the problem with take-home rations for children per se, and I know this sounds a bit selfish, but I guess you have to pardon me, I work for children, is that, if earlier the child was allotted so much food, she had it when she was in school. Now this is going to her home.
It's distributed.
Where there's already hunger, and yeah, so her access is definitely limited.
Compromised, yeah.
So and we know that nutrition has an impact on mental health. It has an impact on everything, growth. So like you are correctly saying, some of these effects are also now beginning to sort of show up. Yeah.
I think you've touched on this anyway, but how has the pandemic limited accessibility for children, right? Not just in nutrition, but also healthcare and education.
Yeah.
And even juvenile justice.
That's terribly worrying. Yeah. So in the juvenile justice system, there are several ways with which information flows to the system, right? It's through police. It could be childline calls. It could be not-for-profits. It could be schools. Schools are a huge source of information because children report to teachers, to peers, etc. I always say the health system, because when nurses are trained to recognize abuse, so a child could come in with a burn and
put 2 and 2 together.
You can put 2 and 2 together, and they do. Right? So when all of that was missing, a lot of this flow of information to the system that takes care of children, that responds, and therefore, was limited. Though now the juvenile justice courts have also begun to work. The child welfare committees are finding ways to adapt online and so on, but it's not easy. We are not talking about urban people with a lot of access to gadgets.
Yeah, we're not digital access is still inequitable in India.
Exactly. So because of digital access, even for the system, it is an issue.
So just sort of to end the conversation, I know Cry is extremely well loved by retail owners who want to support it, and it is doing an important job. What is happening to the funding landscape? Because we know that a lot of the monies, right, from philanthropy and grants and other institutional money has flown into COVID, right? And it seems to be that constant trend or wave. How has it changed things for you as an organization and the sector in general? And also, do you think this is fundamentally changing how people give or think about, social giving in India?
So two things have happened. I think during COVID, especially during the lockdown, I would say the first 3-4 months, there's been a huge spurt of giving, and that's been wonderful. I think people who have never given have given in this time, have stepped out, have responded to an immediate situation, and that's amazing, because to my mind, once you've moved that in your head, once you're saying, even my $100 helps, or the rich are the rich, they will give, they know their money makes a difference. But when the middle class and average,
when everyone believes it,
starts believing that, my little money can also make a difference, or the huge feeling of I have helped, I have not sat still in this time, no? I've not sat dabke apne ghar mein.
I made a difference.
But I've been a warrior, and I have helped. So I think that shift has been a very good thing. What is obviously worrying is that so much of the money, especially institutional, corporate money, has gone into relief, or gone to various government funds, or gone to various, just gone, right? And so people have ended up spending 70% of their budgets already. So we are now facing a situation where regular work, the real work that's going to build that resilience and that recovery from this space. Like, for example, the example I was giving you about immunizations going down to 20%, right? Now we need to recover. We have to do immunization drive. The kids who are never going to come back to school because they're so bored. They've forgotten how to sit in school. A 5-year-old doesn't want to go back easily to school.
Yeah.
Or even a 10-year-old, right? So to take them back to school, we're going to need. So that is the crisis that I see, which is that the money available for regular, the boring, non-relief work, but the real work that will build resilience in communities,
has been depleted.
It has been depleted. The funds have been depleted.
So how are you managing that then? Like, what's your strategy to approaching this problem?
So, like I said, there is money. A lot of foreign institutions are looking at COVID as a worldwide disaster and are really opening up their pockets. Of course, in India, it has currently become a little difficult to get some of that money. And I hope that is an appeal that our government will hear, that this is not the time to look at, be fearful. This is the time to get as many resources as we can from across the world. After all, one of the largest percentages of children who live in poverty live in India.
Yeah. I think 1 in every 5 child.
Yeah, 1 in every 5 children, right. And when you talk about these numbers at international forums, they get shocked. Because just to think of, the number that we have just declared malnourished is what the population of, we recently looked at that number. I realized it was the population of the whole of Venezuela. Is our population of undernourished, malnourished children declared by government numbers. So we are talking millions here, right? And there is money available, I think, some of it. And that's the money that we should be able to access. A lot of regular donors also have been wonderful. I've been talking to organizations about, how we've been working through COVID. One of the greatest advantages has been of this strange online world we are in is that you're suddenly having many more conversations.
Yeah.
And much more collaboration between NGOs. And one of the things I am hearing is that regular donors, and what we've experienced as well, have really come forward and said, don't worry, you can use this money for relief right now. You can do. So I think there's also that among the good people are getting better.
Yeah, they're stepping up.
They're stepping up.
Great. Well, I really hope, Puja, that CRY continues to grow from strength to strength and help more children. And we're excited to support you in any way we can.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.